I think Nick Chubb's a perfect pick. I love Nick Chubb a lot. I hate him, but I love him. Great running back. I love everything he does. Like I said, he reminds me of a running back like Zeke. He can also catch the ball too really well. He's up there with the guys that can catch out of the backfield. I love Nick Chubb. That's a great pick. Julio Jones. The thing is with Julio, Julio. All right, so we're on the board right now. Damn. We got some good running backs left. And this is what I brought up before. Running backs are huge, If I can get 2 to 3 running backs, it's going to be awesome. We just talked about him. I'm going to lock it in. He's a hell of a player. Aaron Jones. I'm picking Aaron Jones. I like what he does in the running game, but I love what he does in the receiving game. I mean, he can line up in the slot. He can do it all. Aaron Jones, he had a great year last year. You talk about what Aaron Jones did in the rushing game. I mean, he had 1,084 rushing yards, 16 rushing touchdowns, 474 receiving yards, and then he also had 3 receiving touchdowns. I mean, talk about a guy that can do it both. I already had Christian McCaffrey and Aaron Jones, so I'm locking that in. It's definitely what I had to do. All right, so we're going to have back-to-back picks. I'm locking this in now. All right, we're on the board. I think here, I think here I'm going to go receiver. I think this guy's going to have a giant year. I'm locking in. I'm going Mike Evans. I think Mike Evans, you remember what Gronk did with Brady, back then? I think Mike's a similar receiver to Randy. Obviously not as good, but I think Mike's going to have a giant year. Someone that Brady can, 50-50 ball. Someone that Brady can throw and he can just go up there and grab it. I love Mike Evans. I think he has a giant year. I mean, look what him and Chris Godwin did last year with the quarterback situation. I mean, those guys were Pro Bowlers last year. Now you're playing with the greatest quarterback all the time. I think Mike Evans has a year. It was a split decision. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, but I had to go Mike Evans. I think with the situation over there with Tom and Tampa over there, I think that was the right choice for me. All right, so we'll go back to where we were. We were talking about Julio. I love Julio Jones. Don't get me wrong, he's a great player. The thing is, I have the problem with Julio is, you talk about the last 2 years in fantasy. The touchdowns weren't there, the receiving yards are there. I need a guy that can do it both. But I think the situation with Julio, with them having Todd Gurley now, them making the trade to get Hayden Hurst, I think Hayden Hurst is amazing here. That's one of my sleepers. I look for Julio to get back on track. I really do. And I hope he does. I love Julio Jones. I think we start seeing him have maybe 8 or 9 touchdowns this year. And the receiving yards are going to be there for Julio. We know what he brings, the route running, the speed, the physicalness, the way he goes up and grabs the football. I think we see a great year for Julio. So that's a great pick for him. Tyreek Hill got picked right after him. They talk about in the NFL, speed kills. I mean, it absolutely does kill. You look what all these teams are doing. They're going off 40 times in the draft, and I think, people are trying to find what the Chiefs have in Tyreek Hill. I think that's a great pick. I mean, like I said, speed kills in the NFL. You see what these top teams are doing. Baltimore, they drafted all 40s for the receivers and running backs. I mean, speed kills. So, Tyreek Hill, great pick. I think he has a big year. He's the leader of that receiving corps, so I think he has a big year. I'm excited. This is a stretch for me. Kendrick Drake, I think he had a good last year for the situation that he was in. I'm not sold on him being that high of a pick. I don't see him having that great of a year. I see him having a decent year, but we'll see how it works. Miles Sanders, I think he has a giant year. That was one of my sleeper picks. I think he's going to bring Philly to the top this year. I love Miles Sanders. He's great. He's really the whole package. Joe Mixon, I I'm not sold on him. I think he had a bad year last year. He just wasn't it for me. But we'll see how Joe Mixon does. I'm not really sold on him. Lamar Jackson, MVP, and unanimous. I think he has a really good year next year. Probably about the same as he did last year. I think he has a really big time year. Travis Kelce. We'll see what he does. He's top. I mean, when you talk about the best tight ends, you talk about Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce. George Kittle is probably the more complete tight end, but when you talk about fantasy, it's definitely Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews. I think that was a great pick for him. Travis Kelce, you can't go wrong there. All right, so we're on the board now. Yeah. I don't know. This is going to be hard. I think I need a receiver here. I'm going to go Keenan Allen here. I'm going to lock it in with Keenan Allen. He's a great player. I'm going to do Keenan Allen. All right, we're on. So, Keenan Allen, all-around receiver. I love what he does. I love what he brings to the table. I think he really has an outstanding year. It's going to be awesome to see what he does. So right now we got McCaffrey, Aaron Jones, Mike Evans, Keenan Allen. And, running back, I love this guy. I think he had a bad year with the Chargers last year, but I love everything about him. I think with the money situation, it just didn't work out. I'm going to go with Melvin Gordon here. I think the new scenery with him in Denver, I love everything that he's doing. And, look at Denver's offense. Look at the receivers they have there. The rookie receivers they brought in there. Jared Jeudy, same neighborhood as Antonio Brown and Hollywood Brown and Devin Singletary and Lamar. That guy's going to be a threat, and I love everything they got there. I think, and he's someone that can get in the receiving yards too. I don't know if you could tell with my draft, there's a trend here. Both guys do it all. The receiving yards, the rushing yards, and that's huge in fantasy when guys do it both ways. You really want to have that on your roster. I think Melvin Gordon going to Denver, and they're going to be seeing the Chargers 2 times a year. He's going to go in there and be like, hey, you remember me? You kept Austin Eckler, even though I love Eckler. No disrespect to him, I love him. I think he's going to have a huge year, but I don't think Melvin's going to take that too kindly. I think he's going to have big games against those guys. So we'll see how it plays out. I love him. That's the reason I drafted him. I think he's a great player. So right now we got McCaffrey, Aaron Jones, Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, Melvin Gordon. And that's a good 5 picks right now. So let's go back. So we were talking about Austin Eckler. Right after Austin Eckler, round 2, pick 8, Lamar Jackson. We see what Lamar Jackson's done in the NFL. Unbelievable. Unanimous MVP. Look what he did with the Ravens. I'm a Ravens fan, but I didn't see the Ravens, winning the amount of games they did. I saw them winning 11 games. Like I said, tough division. Pittsburgh's the big bad boys in that division. They're the daddy of the division. So the way the Ravens took care of Pittsburgh, beating them twice, and everything that went down in that division, I think Lamar does everything he did. Like you said, he's working on everything, not just his throwing, not just his rushing. He wants to work on everything. He's doing everything he can for that organization. I look for him to have probably the same year he had last year, maybe a little bit better. It's just a surprise to a lot of people. No one thought he could do what he's doing. And then Travis Kelce was right after him. Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews, those guys, they're the best tight ends in the league because of what they do in the receiving game. I think George Kittle's the more complete tight end because of the blocking and all that. But, in fantasy, you're not looking for the blocking. But great player. And then, I drafted Mike Evans. Like I brought up Mike Evans. He's a freak. I think with him and Brady's going to be awesome. Adam Thielen wasn't healthy last year. We saw what he did the year before. I think he goes back to those numbers. He looked great, I like the receivers they brought in the draft. Chris Godwin, like I said, he was my sleeper pick last year. He's a great player. I look for him to do maybe not the same numbers because the players they have there in Tampa, but he'll be putting up numbers. Josh Jacobs, another sleeper pick I had last year, him as a rookie. He didn't get to finish the year healthy, but, I think with him and everything that's going on with the Raiders, that's another stacked offense. If you look at the trend over in that division, speed. They talk about in the NFL now, speed kills, and it does. Look at these teams. You look at their 40 times. They're going on 40 times in the draft, and they're really looking for the speed out there. Kenny Galladay. Talk about an underrated receiver. That's another sleeper pick right there. I love Kenny Galladay. I think with Matthew Stafford, them getting more chemistry, they were working out this offseason together. Not supposed to because of the coronavirus, but they were doing it, and I think you're really going to see a good performance on them. So we're on the clock now. We got a good, solid team right now. We're going to look at we already had 5 picks. I think we're going to look at tight end here. I think sixth round for me. I think tight end's perfect here. We got back-to-back picks. I already have a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, but I really think I brought up the Gronk thing. I really think Gronk's gonna. I'm not saying the receiving numbers are gonna be there. I look for 700, 750, maybe 800 receiving yards, but I look for 10 to 13 touchdowns. Brady's gonna need that that sleeper, and I think he has that in Gronk. A good relationship. Their families are friends. They hang out all the time. I think that's really gonna be a good connection for him. And this is a new thing in Tampa. This isn't your same rodeo in New England. I think that's a great pick for me. I like what they're doing over there. And the big concern for me with Gronk is the weight. You talk about his weight. 278 pounds. Now he's down to 240 something. I think that's a big concern. But I look for the numbers to be there. So right now. You got Christian McCaffrey, Aaron Jones, Keenan Allen, Melvin Gordon, and Gronk. Mike Evans, a sleeper pick of this year. I like Devontae Parker. I love Devontae Parker. I don't think he gets enough credit as he does because he's a Miami receiver. But look what he did to Stephon Gilmore. He shredded him up last year. And, that's the best corner of the league. When you talk about Devontae Parker, he's a guy that's so underrated, and I think DBs need to stop sleeping on him because, he'll punch you in the mouth right off the line of scrimmage. He will punch you literally in the mouth, and I think he has a giant year. I think we see Pro Bowl numbers out of him, and I'm excited about that because, I don't think the Dolphins get enough recognition. They finished strong last year. They really did finish strong, and I like what they did last year.
So is that your 7th pick?
Yeah, Devontae is the 7th pick. George Kittle. We talked about it. The all-around tight end. He got the money, he won it, and he deserves it. I think he's the 3rd tight end in fantasy when you look at George Kittle. I love DJ Moore. I'm a big Maryland guy. I don't know. I think that was a little early for him. Going ahead of Allen Robinson and Amari Cooper. I love Amari Cooper. You talk about the route runners in the game. What route can't Amari Cooper run? So I don't like that pick with DJ Moore there. Allen Robinson, great year last year. The problem with Allen Robinson is we don't know the production we're getting at quarterback. We don't know the starter. So, I didn't want to take that risk. I did it last year. I didn't want to do that. The thing is about Amari Cooper, and he got drafted right after Allen Robinson, is they have a bunch of receivers. You talk about the receivers they have over there. They have 4 receivers. Zeke, I look for the numbers to be spread out. We'll see how it plays out. I don't know. Todd Gurley, like I said, we don't know what Todd Gurley we're going to get. You're hoping we get the Todd Gurley from 2 years ago, but it's a new system over in Atlanta. And, like I said, Julio Jones, Hayden Hurts,